Here we go again. Xbox's upcoming first person fantasy RPG Avowed, which is being developed by Obsidian, is going to have pronouns. Roll this up over at fandompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. I encourage you to head on over there, become a paid subscriber so you can help us fight back against this evil woke ideology that is destroying our culture, our society, our video games, our movies, and our television. So the inclusion of pronouns into the game was discovered after YouTuber Force Gaming shared an early review of the game after he was allowed to play around 20 hours of the game. During his review, while discussing the leveling system, he showed off some of the game's menus where it clearly identifies his character with he, him pronouns. You can see it right there. He, him right there, which means this game is going to have the other pronouns likely and is clearly trying to push and normalize gender ideology and transgenderism. This is absolutely sick. It's absolutely disgusting. And we need to oppose this stuff. We need to root this out of these video game companies. We need to let them know this is unacceptable. And it's unacceptable because it is evil. This is evil stuff. Pope Francis has condemned this ideology as, quote, the worst danger of our time. He did that during an address to participants in the international conference, Man, Woman, Image of God, towards an anthropology of vocations. He said this: it is very important for there to be this encounter between men and women, because today the worst danger is gender ideology, which cancels out differences. I asked for studies to be made on this ugly ideology of our time, which erases differences and makes everything the same. To erase differences is to erase humanity. Man and woman, on the other hand, stand in fruitful tension. Absolute evil stuff here. Pope Francis making it very clear. We also have Bishop Michael Burbidge of the Diocese of Arlington. He wrote in his letter a catechesis on the human person and gender ideology and explained how the use of adopting new names and pronouns, quote, presents a profound crisis. He says this: we can never say something contrary to what we know to be true. To use names and pronouns that contradict the person's God-given identity is to speak falsely. The faithful should avoid using gender-affirming terms or pronouns that convey approval of or reinforce the person's rejection of the truth. It is not harsh or judgmental to decline to use such language. In the broader culture, Catholics may experience significant pressure, and I think Christians at large, not just Catholics, may experience, obviously he's writing to Catholics, may experience significant pressure to adopt culturally approved terminology. And you don't even have to be Christians. You just pose this ideology at all. There's going to be pressure to anyone to accept this. However, in no circumstances should anyone be compelled to use language contrary to the truth. The right to speak the truth inheres in the human person and cannot be taken away by any human institution. And that is what Xbox, Obsidian Entertainment, are literally trying to do. They are trying to get you to believe that men can become women and women can become men. And they're doing this through this pronoun stuff. That's the only reason why this is done. It is to push gender ideology. It is to try to obfuscate the truth. It is trying to get people to believe a lie. And it is to get people to destroy themselves. Because once you start down this path, as Archbishop Sample of the Archdiocese of Portland explains, it leads to sickening, evil stuff here. Specifically, can lead to mutilation. He writes, to some, supporting aspects of social transition may seem benign, even humane, such as using someone's preferred pronouns and actively affirming his or her perceived gender. However, while well-intentioned, this kind of endorsement may help shepherd a young person or any person on a path of unnecessary medicalization. Social transition is often the first step towards hormones and surgery. The 2020 survey of transgender and non-binary youth found that 64% of respondents were either already receiving cross-sex hormones or desire to do so. Danish researchers who first used puberty blockers on gender dysphoric children found that social transition increased the likelihood that dysphoria would persist and result in medicalization. Social transition can also include practices such as breast binding and genital tucking, both of which have been shown to have adverse effects on physical health, like testicular torsion and reduced fertility in males, and abnormal lung function and back pain in females. Moreover, a 2020 study on the effects of social transition found that family and peer relations, but not social transition status, predicted psychological functioning. So it can lead to absolutely devastating consequences where people are literally mutilating themselves, and these doctors are going along with it. And you have people like Xbox cheering this on. In fact, Xbox has literally an entire gaming for everyone's product inclusion framework where they're literally instructing not only their internal studios, such as Obsidian, but external studios as well, to begin adopting this disgusting, evil ideology. Some of those questions in the framework are this. What steps have you taken to ensure characters are represented respectfully and authentically? That is clearly language. Say, how have you included transgenders into our game? How have you included disordered LGBTQ plus relationships into your game? That's all that stuff is. This whole like authentic stuff. It's not about actually being someone who is going to embrace what is true, right, and good. It's all about embracing disordered lifestyles. And then it says, are you reinforcing any negative gender stereotypes? Are you necessarily introducing gender and gender barriers into your code or design? Are you creating playable female characters that are equal in skill and ability to their male peers? Are your female characters equipped with clothing and armor that fits their tasks? Do they have exaggerated body proportions? When the story allows, do you show male characters who display a full range of emotions, including joy, sadness, and vulnerability? It also instructs developers to measure inclusion for so-called representation, including using a inclusive content ratio that tracks, quote, the portion of content featuring or catering to underrepresented groups, measures the extent of representation in the product's content. You can see that right here in this image. This stuff is sick. Also are partnered with GLAAD, which is literally an activist organization trying to push LGBTQIA plus whatever they all are now into movies, television, and video games. It literally says this on the bottom of their little framework here, saying that Microsoft has an ongoing partnership with GLAAD to bring more LGBTQIA plus stories to our players. You can see that right here. Xbox publishing partnership with GLAAD. They are literally trying to put this into their games, and it's clearly in this upcoming Avowed game. And I don't care how great the gameplay is, how great the story happens to be, because that's all being used to indoctrinate people to buy into this gender ideology, to normalize it. That is effective propaganda. If you have good gameplay, if you have a so-called good story, but you're promoting this absolute evil, you have effective propaganda. And that is what they are using these games to do now. It's not about actually providing you entertainment. It's not about escapism. It's not about consolation. It's not about all the things that J.R.R. Tolkien talks about that a good fairy story provides. And I think video games kind of translate to that. Obviously, he's talking about literature and books, but I think that you can still take those things that he talks about there and apply that to video games, because I think they offer much of the same things. But it's not about that anymore. It is literally about either propagandizing you or humiliating you. And I think that is what we are seeing here with this upcoming Avowed game. So for me, this game is dead on arrival. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.